Hello, welcome to another video by LSX Engines, Tuning, and Marine. First of all, I want to start off by saying ignore this mess on this table. I'm trying to get a couple of engines built and I'm too dang busy to clean up. But this table will be cleaned off as I put this engine together. So in this video, this is going to be a follow-up to, this will be part 4C, a follow-up to measuring bearing clearances on the main and rod bearings on a set of 8 V8 Mercruiser pistons. To continue on from the last video, I had one piston and rod combo that the tolerance was too much. It was more than the factory range of 3 thousandths was the maximum tolerance or maximum clearance, and this one came out to 4 thousandths. So I don't want to use that. I called a machine shop and they said they can repair the rod, but they really can't press it. They can't press the piston off because it's more likely going to damage the piston, which I already knew, but I thought maybe they had a miracle device or a miracle jig to get it off. But he said they do have a jig, but it's kind of universal in nature and it doesn't save all pistons. So he said you'd be better off, if you want to save it, to recondition the rod while the piston's still attached. He said they can do that. He said they don't like to, but if they have to, they can. The piston only costs $11 and reconditioning the rod is 30 bucks. So you're better off just throwing the piston away and starting over, so that's kind of what I'm going to do. So I already had a set of 8 pistons for another customer in the queue, and so what I did was I grabbed a piston out of his set. I have a set of 8 pistons, and I grabbed this piston out of his box, and because his build is a couple of weeks away, and I just replaced this piston in the meantime. But one of the things I was concerned about is the 8 pistons that I had were supposed to be a matched set out of the box. They all came in the same box, so they're supposed to be a matched set. So if I now interject a new piston in the set, I may change the weight, and I didn't want to do that. So to resolve that issue, I bought the scale from Harbor Freight. I hate to admit it, but I did it. I don't really like buying stuff from China, but sometimes it's a matter of business survival, you have to do it. So this scale, if I take these pistons, all the others, and measure them, you'll see they come out to about 1335, 1333. I've seen anywhere from 1331 to 1336 on all of them. I've already measured them all. So that was 1332 there. Let me check this one. That was 1336. Again, I've already measured all of them, and every one of them came within 1331 to 1336. So what I'm going to do is to resolve this issue, and there's a second issue I'm talking about in this video, but first I'm going to discuss the weight. So this is a 350 piston that a 350 rod that I went and bought today from a local machine shop. He sold it to me for 10 bucks. So if I weigh this rod on the scale here, I get 605 grams. So remember that number. Well, I'm going to remember that number. 605 grams. And then if I weigh this piston, which I'm going to attach this piston to it tomorrow. 605 plus 680. So we're looking at what, 1285 already. So that's 1285, which does not add up to 1335. So what's going on? Well, we're missing one thing. We're missing the bearing shells. All the rest of these rods have bearings in them. So if I did measure these 2 bearing shells, guess what? It measures 50 grams. So 605 and 680 is 1285 plus 50 is 1335. Well, what do you know? So that piston and that rod and those sort of bearings add up to the same as the weight of all the rest of these pistons and rods and bearings. So I'm going to say that it's okay for me to use this piston that was not part of the set in this build, because since it weighs the same. So that solves one mystery, or one dilemma about making this swap. I'm happy that, or I'm satisfied that will work. So I'm going to take this rod and piston out of the bunch, and I'm either going to throw it away and lose an $11 piston, or the machine shop said since I'm such a good customer, I send him a lot of work, he may just do this for free for me. If it's only one, he said. So he said let him look at it, he'll see what he can do. So that takes care of that. So now I have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pistons and another 5.7 rod that I'll put together tomorrow. It's kind of dark right now. I can't do a piston assembly machine is an outdoor machine only. It's based on fire, flame, so I don't want to ignite it in here. But anyway, that's how I'm going to resolve that issue. So the next issue is, in doing some research, one of my solutions to this dilemma was I thought I have a set of 305 rods right there, 305 pistons and rods. And one of the things I was contemplating doing was pressing all those old pistons off, getting the 8 rods, and putting another set of 8 pistons on those rods and using those as a match set instead of doing this. Well, that's kind of blown out of the water since I now know that these all weigh the same. So match sets, that's not an issue anymore. However, one of the things in my research I did today said I thought I was assuming 305 and 350 rods were the same. They look the same. They measured the same distance from here to there, and they measured the same across from here. This width right here was the same, and the width right there was the same. They looked identical to me, so I thought they were. Well, I did some research, and they were saying 305 rods are significantly lighter than the 350 rods. And even though they looked the same, they said something about the web. This webbing or cross section was different, or different strength, or different depth, or something. So to prove that, I went and took this 305 rod. Actually, this is the 350 rod, and let me reset this thing again. So I measured this 350 rod, and it comes out to 605 grams. Now, granted, this whole experiment is based on the fact that the machine shop told me this was a 350 rod, and I'm just going by what they told me. So he said it was a 350 rod. I will call him Monday to confirm that, but for now I'm gonna go by their word. This rod here is a 305 rod, and I know it because I took that type of 305 engine. I pulled it, and so I took one of those pistons and rods and pressed it out, or pressed the piston off here, and I ended up with a 305 rod. And so let me show you the piston that came off of it. By the way, I'll show you what happens when you press a piston off a rod. This is what you get. See that crack right there? There's a crack right down there by my finger, and there's a crack running from there all the way up to the crown, and then there's a crack right there. So it wasn't cracked until I pressed. There's my 20-ton hydraulic press, and in the process of pressing the piston pin out of that rod, it cracked that piston. So you can see, and those, I will say that to me, just in case you're ever wondering, I don't have any proof of this, but I've seen a lot of these pistons look like this. I think these are Engine Tech pistons. Engine Tech is a cheap aftermarket brand, and cheapest around. And I guess it was holding up, it was running, but you can see it just doesn't have the same quality look as other pistons. But anyway, I believe these are Engine Tech pistons. So as I was saying, so I got a 305 rod, and let's try this again. So I'll turn this back on. So this is definitely a 305 rod. I pressed it off that 305 piston, and I cleaned it up and wrote the size down on it. Let's measure it now. So it's 601 grams, 602 grams. And this 350 rod is 605 grams. Well, if you take 603 and divide it by 605, it's like 0.999 something. So it's less than a half or less than a tenth of a percent difference. That's ridiculous. That's negligible. So in my mind, 305 rods and 350 rods are the same. There's no difference in the weight, at least on these two to me. And like I said, I'm going by the fact that the machinist told me this was a 350 rod, so I'm just going by his word. But if that's the case, there's no difference between the 305 and 350 rods. So if anybody's got any evidence or hard facts to refute what I'm saying, please put them in the comments, and I'll gladly look at it and retract this statement, or retract what I'm saying in this video. But for now, I'm saying 305 and 350. This is 1996 to say 99 Chevrolet Vortec 305 and 350 engines, not the newer LS stuff. Newer LS stuff is a different animal. So I think those rods are in different length altogether. So anyway, that's what I want to say in this video. And so I'm gonna use a piston from another set with this rod, assemble it tomorrow, and put it in the engine, and problem solved. So thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more videos. And please subscribe if you can.